Whenever we finish a big project, there is always that vacuum of time and energy left behind, encouraging us to tackle something bigger and better. So it was for Lori Reynolds Paisley after distributing more than 1,500 Christmas jars throughout all 50 United States and 13 countries. Yet, instead of moving on, Lori made the choice to continue to encourage Christmas jar book sales and spare change projects, while still looking toward whatever may be her next worthy project. So you finished this project Christmas of 2009.
Mm-hmm.
It's obviously wildly successful,
Mm-hmm.
and it accomplishes your objective. It's now January 2010,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of people would have said, okay, how do we make it bigger and better for the new year?
And I did. That was the first thing I did. I said, what are we going to do? Maybe we should go for 2010 jars in 2010. And I immediately got a response from the author himself that said absolutely not. Because it had taken so much out of all of us. You know, I was ready to be done with it, but it was sad. And it took me a while to just process it all and realize what had happened and what we had done and how many people hopefully were touched. And you hope that those 1,500 people who received those jars that year, that they in turn, the following year, 1,500 more went out. Mm-hmm. I have continued for all these years to promote that book. When I'm in the bookstore and it's there, I talk to the stranger next to me and ask them if they've read the book. And, I meet people like I did, a couple weeks ago who are still carrying on the Christmas jar tradition. So every time I think it's done and over with and forgotten, something comes up and reminds me that it's a spare change movement that continues on even without me.
But something happened in 2015 with the Christmas Jar Project that brought it back to the forefront on a big level, an a media level.
Yes.
And also, I think, maybe reset your thought process about it in a lot of ways.
I received a letter from the Dover Public Library in Ohio, and it was from the director, and he said, hey, I wanted to let you know that one of the workers here at the library read Christmas Jars and loved it so much that she got the rest of us to read it, and we now have a huge jar sitting on our counter here at the library for people to make donations to. I emailed him back and said, that's wonderful. Maybe we can get Jason to your area to do some school assemblies and talk at the library and things like that. So we were in touch and we were kind of working on an event when I got an email several weeks later that said, I'm very sad to tell you that our Christmas jar was stolen. And at that point it had over $1,000 in it.
How did they counted it?
Yeah, they had been monitoring it. Unfortunately, a young man came in and took it, stole it. And
did they see it happen?
But he was captured on videotape.
Oh.
So he was arrested shortly after that, and I immediately let Jason know. And so Jason's first reaction was to set up a GoFundMe page and to get all their money back. And within, I think, 3 days, kind people who have read Christmas Jars and understood what Christmas Jars was all about donated, and we had $1,000 to replace it. So Jason was going to drive that jar up to Dover Library and decided he wanted to talk to the young man who had taken the jar and explain to him what the tradition was and why a Christmas jar was so important. And
why did he want to do that? Why did he want to take that time? That's an investment of his time, which has value.
It is, but we all make mistakes. And I think the Christmas jar community understands that. It wasn't about punishing somebody for stealing. It was giving this young man a second chance. So Jason contacted the jail and asked them if he could come up and talk to the young man. And they said yes. And Jason got there, and unfortunately the young man backed out and decided he did not want to talk to him. He wasn't ready to. He told him that if at any point in time he wanted to talk, he would get back in his car and drive from Virginia back up there and talk to him. Since then, just in the past couple weeks, the young man has reached out to Jason, and we're hoping that maybe in the fall we'll have another trip up there and he'll be able to sit down one-on-one and take him to breakfast or lunch and just...
He'll be out of prison by then?
Yes. One of the things I found most interesting about what happened was that whole community
In Dover?
yes, did nothing but come back in and throw more money in that jar because they knew that that jar was meant for several families who needed help. And one of the things that touched me the most was when I got up there, those library people wanted to help the young man's family. The young man was involved in some situations, and they wanted to take some of the money that they had raised and actually give back to him.
Why?
I don't know. I think that they all saw a young man who was struggling, who was young.
How old was he?
I believe he's 22.
Okay.
I don't know that for sure, but I believe he's around 22. And, again, we all want forgiveness. We all want to be forgiven. There isn't anybody that hasn't ever done something that's wrong or, made a mistake. And instead of turning on him, they reached out and tried to help him and were willing to help him. And I'm hoping that that'll be a huge lesson for him, that he will learn that there is help.
Have they started a Christmas jar for 16? Do you know?
They have, yep. We don't get to sit there and watch and see the reaction of the person who is receiving that gift, but you don't need to. When you put that jar down on a front step and ring the doorbell and run, or you put that on the inside of a car seat and walk away, I can't describe what it feels like to know that somebody's going to get that and their day is going to be a whole lot better.
The whole thing about putting it on the front door step and then ringing the doorbell and running away, that just gives me a whole visual of kind of like getting in trouble at Halloween. That's what it reminds me of. Is there another way? Like, have people come up with different ways to do this?
Oh, yeah. There's been a lot of creative ways. One woman out in New Mexico, she finds the most rundown car she can find. Just beat up old car. I think last year she went to Goodwill and there was a car that just was in bad shape and the door was open and she opened it up and she left her jar right there on the floor of the car, and she does it every year. She finds a car.
So I don't have to ring the doorbell and run.
No, and I have had more face plants on the cement because I have forgotten about trees or I have forgotten about steps. Or you hit the panic button on your car accidentally. That's happened.
You had to use one word to describe the Christmas Jar Project. What would that one word be?
Gosh, I don't know that I could. It was just, it's not one word, but it was life-changing.
And not just for the people that you give it to.
No.
So you've not done anything of that scope and scale since that initial 2009?
Mm-hmm.
Does that bother you?
Yeah.
Why?
I'm the type of person that feels like I should always be giving back. I raised a lot of money the last couple of years for Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, running races around the country, but nothing, on a scale of Christmas jars, 1,001 Christmas jar project, nothing on that scale. But I'll find one. I'll find something.
When you say that, 1,001 Christmas jar project, what, like, your whole body, just everything about you changed. When you said that phrase, what does that feel like to you?
I'm really proud of it. I'm very proud of it. It's just something that I never thought I could do, and I'm glad I listened to that voice, whoever and whatever that voice was. I'm very glad I listened to it, and I would listen to it again if it decides to speak to me.
Is that your jar for this year? Or did you just bring that for this video?
No, this is.
Do you know how much is in it?
I don't.
That's a lot. I mean, this is only 3 months into the year.
Right, and at some point I'll take the pennies out and turn them into quarters and dimes and nickels, so there'll be more room to add more.
Do you ever start a second jar? I mean, is that unusual for you?
I usually have 2 or 3 jars.
And your husband's still good with this?
He's good with 3 jars, not 1,500.